The first sign that something was wrong came when the conversion center in New York went silent. Administrator Vex stood in the command center of the primary Cytherian vessel, watching his displays with growing confusion as one facility after another stopped responding. "Report," he commanded his subordinates. "Unknown interference with the neural modification equipment," came the response. "The human subjects appear to be triggering some kind of cascade failure in our systems." Vex's eyes narrowed. In 3,000 years of galactic conquest, he had never encountered biological resistance to their technology. "Send technical teams to investigate." But before the teams could deploy, something far more alarming appeared on the Cytherian sensors. Ships, dozens of them, emerging from what appeared to be empty space around Earth. The designs were unknown, clearly not matching any technology in the Cytherian databases. "How is this possible?" Vex demanded. "Our surveys detected no advanced shipbuilding capabilities." Sarah watched from the Resistance Command Center as humanity's hidden fleet revealed itself. The ships were beautiful and terrifying, combining human engineering aesthetics with alien technology in ways that created something entirely new. Sleek, angular vessels that seemed to shimmer with barely contained energy. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Command." Martinez's voice rang out across the communication channels. "You are cleared to engage." The first human ship to fire was the CNS Defiance, a heavy cruiser that had been under construction in a hidden asteroid facility for 15 years. Its main weapon was based on technology recovered from a crashed alien scout ship in 1962, but enhanced with human innovations that the original designers never imagined. The beam that lanced out from the Defiance struck a Cytherian escort vessel with devastating effect. The alien ship's shields, designed to deflect conventional energy weapons, simply ceased to exist. The vessel itself folded inward like a collapsing star before disappearing in a flash of light. "Target eliminated," came the report from the Defiance's weapons officer. The shield frequency disruptors worked perfectly. Sarah felt a chill of satisfaction. The Resistance had spent years analyzing captured Cytherian technology, learning its weaknesses, developing counters for every system. While the aliens had observed human civilization, humans had been dissecting alien engineering with scientific precision, but the space battle was only one part of humanity's counterattack. On Earth's surface, the conversion centers were experiencing systematic failures as the biological agents carried by volunteer Resistance members corrupted the Cytherian modification equipment. Dr. Vesquez monitored the biological warfare from her station. "The viral programs are propagating through their network faster than anticipated," she reported. "Their computer systems are designed for efficiency, not security. They never expected to face an enemy that could code malicious software into biological organisms. The Cytherians had studied human biology extensively, but they had missed something crucial. Humans had been modifying their own genetics for years, creating people who could carry custom-designed viruses that would activate under specific conditions. The volunteers who had submitted to conversion weren't victims. They were weapons. In orbit above Earth, the space battle intensified as more human ships appeared. Admiral Chun, Sarah's younger brother, who had supposedly died in a naval accident 5 years earlier, commanded the operation from the flagship CNS Terra. "Cytherian command vessel is launching fighter squadrons," reported his tactical officer. "Let them come," Chun replied calmly. "Deploy the swarm." What emerged from the human ships looked like a cloud of metal insects. Thousands of small drones, each one carrying weapons designed to exploit specific vulnerabilities in Cytherian technology. They moved with coordinated intelligence, adapting their attack patterns in real time as they learned from each engagement. The Cytherian fighters found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Weapons that had conquered 1,000 worlds proved useless against human technology that had been specifically designed to counter them. "This is impossible," Administrator Vex said, watching his forces being systematically destroyed. "Our intelligence indicated they barely achieved orbital flight." "Perhaps our intelligence was incomplete," suggested one of his subordinates. No, this was deliberate deception. They allowed us to see only what they wanted us to. See, Vex was beginning to understand that the Cytherians had not conquered Earth. They had been invited to land in a carefully prepared killing field. Sarah watched the battle unfold with mixed emotions. The Resistance's plan was working perfectly, but the scale of the deception was staggering. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, sacrificing normal development and countless lives to create an elaborate trap. Phase 2 is now active, announced Martinez over the communication system. All deep space assets engage priority targets. On the long-range sensors, new contacts appeared. These weren't ships emerging from stealth. These were vessels arriving from the outer solar system, where humanity had been building installations for decades. Massive carriers, their holds filled with automated weapons platforms, manufacturing ships that could construct new vessels in the middle of battle. And something else, something that made even Sarah gasp. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked Mitchell. "The Prometheus Project," he confirmed. "Humanity's first artificial world. We've been building it in the Kuiper Belt for 20 years. The structure that appeared on the sensors was mind-boggling in scope. A spherical habitat the size of Earth's moon, bristling with weapons and manufacturing facilities. It had taken the combined efforts of a hidden space industry to create, powered by technology that the public Earth had never seen. "Prometheus to Earth Command," came a voice over the communications. "We are in position to execute the Titan Protocol." Sarah turned to Mitchell. "What's the Titan Protocol?" "You're about to find out." The artificial world began to change. Sections of its hull opened, revealing massive accelerator systems. What emerged was a stream of projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed, each one precisely targeted at Cytherian vessels throughout the solar system. The aliens, faster than light communication systems, carried word of the attack to the far reaches of their empire in minutes. Other Cytherian fleets, confident in their superiority, began moving toward Earth to assist in what they assumed would be the simple suppression of a primitive uprising. They arrived to find something unprecedented in galactic history: human ships that moved faster than anything the Cytherians possessed, weapons that ignored their shields and armor, tactics that anticipated their every strategy because humanity had been studying alien warfare for decades while pretending to be incapable of resistance. Admiral Zectus commanded the Cytherian reinforcement fleet, veterans of 100 conquered worlds. His ships had never encountered serious resistance from any species. That confidence lasted exactly 17 minutes after arriving in Earth's solar system. "Fleet status report," he commanded after watching half his vessels disappear in the first engagement. 37 ships destroyed, 12 more heavily damaged, came the shaking response from his communications officer. "Sir, their weapons are specifically designed to counter our technology." "Impossible. We surveyed their capabilities extensively." "Sir, I'm receiving reports from across the Empire. Human ships are attacking our installations throughout the galaxy. They have faster-than-light travel capabilities that exceed our own." Zectus felt something he had never experienced in 3 centuries of military service: fear. "How many ships?" "Early estimates suggest thousands, sir. They appear to have constructed a fleet larger than our own while maintaining the pretense of being a primitive civilization." Sarah monitored the reports from across the galaxy with amazement. Humanity's deception had been far more extensive than even she had realized. While Earth appeared to be a single planet of primitives, humans had been establishing hidden colonies and bases throughout the galaxy for decades. "Operation Long Road," explained Martinez during a brief break in the battle. "We've been using captured alien transportation technology to spread across the galaxy in secret. Every major Cytherian facility has had human infiltrators for years. How many people knew about this?" "Fewer than you'd think. The compartmentalization was necessary to maintain the deception. Even most of the resistance cells only knew their specific piece of the puzzle. On Earth, the last Catherian ground forces were surrendering or fleeing. The conversion centers had been completely compromised, their technology corrupted beyond repair by the biological agents humanity had introduced. Administrator Vex found himself trapped on a planet that had revealed itself to be the center of the largest military deception in galactic history. This is Administrator Vex to any remaining empire. Vessels, he broadcast. Immediate evacuation from the Sol system. This species represents a threat to Imperial security, but it was too late for evacuation. Human ships had surrounded every Catherian vessel in the system, and from across the galaxy, reports continued to pour in of Imperial facilities under attack by forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. Dr. Kevin Park, working from a command center on the hidden lunar facility, delivered the final blow. Galactic communication network is under our control, Hia. Dr. James Mitchell led Sarah through maintenance tunnels she never knew existed beneath the research facility. The walls were lined with pipes and cables, but something about them looked wrong. The metal was too clean, too precisely manufactured. This wasn't human engineering. These tunnels were here when the facility was built, Mitchell explained as they walked. We thought they were just standard infrastructure until we realized the Catherians had been planning this for decades. Planning what, exactly? Mitchell stopped at what appeared to be a solid wall. He placed his hand against a specific spot and a section slid away silently. The complete biological cataloging of humanity. They've been studying us since the 1950s. Sarah followed him into a hidden chamber filled with computer equipment and monitoring screens. A dozen people worked at various stations, all of them supposedly missing or relocated. The room hummed with quiet activity. Welcome to the real resistance, Mitchell said. We've been operating for 2 years, ever since we figured out what those medical checkups were really for. Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her workstation. Sarah recognized her as a brilliant geneticist who had vanished 8 months ago. Dr. Chun, we've been hoping you would discover the truth. Your work on biological adaptation has been crucial to understanding their methodology. Sarah's mind reeled. How many of you are there? Across the globe? Maybe 10,000, replied a man Sarah didn't recognize. All scientists, engineers, military personnel who figured out what was happening and chose to disappear rather than become test subjects. Test subjects for what? Mitchell activated a large display screen. Images appeared that made Sarah's stomach turn. Humans in laboratory settings, clearly unconscious, being subjected to various procedures. Some were connected to alien machinery that seemed to be mapping their neural patterns. Others were being injected with substances that caused visible changes to their physiology. They're not just studying us, Mitchell explained. They're testing different ways to modify human consciousness and biology. The end goal is to create a docile, perfectly controllable version of humanity that can be integrated into their empire as a worker class. Sarah studied the images, her scientific mind analyzing what she saw despite her horror. The neural mapping equipment. They're trying to understand human creativity and independent thought, so they can eliminate it, Vasquez confirmed. The modifications we've observed suppress the areas of the brain associated with innovation, rebellion, and abstract thinking. They want humans who can perform complex tasks but never question orders. How long do we have? Based on their current testing pace, we estimate they'll begin mass conversion within 6 months, Mitchell said. They'll start with major population centers, probably framing it as a voluntary enhancement program. Sarah felt the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her. What can we do? They have technology centuries beyond ours. Centuries beyond what they think is ours, corrected a voice from behind her. Sarah turned to see a woman emerging from another hidden passage. She was tall, athletic, and carried herself with military bearing despite wearing civilian clothes. Colonel Martinez, Mitchell said. Dr. Chun, meet the former commander of the United States Space Command. Former? Officially, I died in a helicopter crash 6 months ago, Martinez replied grimly. In reality, I've been coordinating something the Catherians don't know exists. The colonel activated another display showing what appeared to be construction blueprints. The designs were clearly advanced, but the aesthetic was distinctly human rather than alien. For the past 5 years, before first contact, humanity had been developing technologies the public never knew about. Black projects, deep space installations, experimental weapons systems. The Cytherians saw our primitive nuclear weapons and conventional military, but they never saw what we were really capable of. Sarah studied the blueprints. These ships, how is this possible? Reverse-engineered alien technology from recovered crashes, combined with theoretical physics breakthroughs that were classified above top secret, Martinez explained. We had already been visited by scout ships from various species over the decades. We learned to adapt their technology to our needs. But the Cytherians dismantled our military so easily. They dismantled what we showed them. Martinez smiled for the first time since Sarah had met her. Every military installation they targeted, every weapon system they disabled, was deliberately visible. Meanwhile, our real assets have been hidden in locations they've never detected. Mitchell pulled up another set of displays showing space-based installations that looked like they belonged in science fiction. Lunar facilities, asteroid mining operations, deep space manufacturing platforms, all powered by zero-point energy generators and protected by stealth systems adapted from crashed alien vessels. Sarah's scientific skepticism warred with growing hope. Even if this is true, one empire conquered thousands of worlds. What makes you think we can resist them? Because they made a mistake, Vasquez said, her voice carrying cold satisfaction. They studied human biology and psychology, but they never understood human strategy. Martinez took over the explanation. The Cytherians are efficient, logical, and systematic. They conquer species by demonstrating overwhelming superiority, then offering protection in exchange for submission. It's worked for them thousands of times because most species react to threats the same way. But humans are different? Humans are sneaky, Martinez said bluntly. We're the species that survived by hiding from predators, not by confronting them directly. We learned to use tools, to set traps, to plan elaborate deceptions. The Cytherians saw our wars and assumed we were simply violent, but they missed the real lesson, which is, humans are brilliant at pretending to be weaker than we are. Over the following weeks, Sarah was inducted into humanity's greatest secret. The Resistance wasn't just a collection of hidden scientists and military personnel. It was a carefully orchestrated deception that had been running for decades. Every aspect of human development that the Cytherians had observed was deliberately managed to appear more primitive than it actually was. While the aliens studied human cities and conventional technology, humanity's real advances were happening in hidden facilities scattered throughout the solar system. Sarah learned about fusion reactors that could power entire continents, artificial intelligence systems that rivaled alien technology, and weapons that bent the laws of physics in ways that would have seemed impossible just years before. The hardest part was making sure the deception looked natural, explained Dr. Kevin Park, a physicist who was supposed to have died in a laboratory accident. We had to ensure that our public technology progressed at a believable rate while hiding our real capabilities. Every time the Cytherians scanned our development, they saw exactly what we wanted them to see, added Martinez. A species that had barely reached its own moon, still fighting with chemical rockets and primitive computers. But Sarah also learned about the cost of this deception. Thousands of humanity's brightest minds had been declared dead or missing, spending years in hidden facilities. Families mourned loved ones who were actually working to save the species. The psychological toll on the resistance was enormous. My daughter thinks I died in Afghanistan, Martinez said quietly during one of their planning sessions. She's 12 now. I haven't seen her since she was 7. Sarah began to understand the full scope of the sacrifice humanity had made for this moment. An entire generation had given up their normal lives to prepare for a war the enemy didn't even know was coming. The breaking point came sooner than expected. Sarah was in her laboratory when alerts began flashing across every screen in the facility. Administrator Vex appeared on the main display, his expression more coldly alien than ever. "Citizens of Earth," he announced, "your integration into the Galactic Empire will now enter its final phase. Beginning tomorrow, enhanced medical treatments will be available to improve human cognitive and physical performance." Sarah felt ice in her veins. The mass conversion was starting. "Participation is, of course, voluntary," Vex continued, though his tone suggested otherwise. "However, those who choose not to participate may find themselves unable to function effectively in the new social order." The transmission ended, and Sarah immediately contacted the Resistance through their secure channels. "They're moving up the timeline," Mitchell confirmed. "We're tracking movement of specialized equipment to major population centers worldwide. The conversion centers will be operational within 48 hours. How ready are we?" Sarah asked. Martinez's voice came through the communications system from wherever she was hiding. "As ready as we can be. Operation Rising Tide is a go." Sarah had heard references to Rising Tide but never knew the details. Now, as she watched Resistance members rushing to their stations, she realized she was about to witness humanity's counterattack. "Dr. Chun," called Vasquez from her workstation, "we need you to help coordinate the biological countermeasures. The Cytherians are going to discover very quickly that humans are much harder to control than they anticipated." Over the next 24 hours, Sarah watched as humanity's hidden war machine came to life. Communications networks the Cytherians had never detected carried orders to resistance cells in every major city. The massive shadow fell across Earth's sky like a curtain being drawn over the sun. Every person on the planet stopped what they were doing and looked up. The ship was so enormous that it blocked out entire city blocks, stretching from horizon to horizon in some places. Its dark metal surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it appear like a hole cut into reality itself. Dr. Sarah Chun stood on the roof of the United Nations building in New York, her hands trembling as she held her tablet. As Earth's lead xenobiologist, she had dreamed of this moment her entire career, but nothing could have prepared her for the sheer terror and awe of seeing an alien vessel that dwarfed entire countries. The ship had appeared without warning 3 hours ago. No radio signals, no advance notice, no gradual approach from the outer solar system. One moment the sky was clear, the next moment this impossibly large craft hung above Earth like a sleeping giant. "Dr. Chun," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Secretary General Martinez approaching, his face pale but determined. "They're requesting communication. Direct channel to whoever speaks for Earth." Sarah nodded, though her throat felt dry. "Any demands? Threats?" "None. They simply said they have an offer to make." The communication came through every device on Earth simultaneously. Not just government channels or military frequencies, but every phone, every computer, every television, even simple radios. The voice that spoke was surprisingly human-like, though there was something cold about it, like winter wind through metal. "People of Earth," the voice began, echoing across 7 billion devices at once. "We are the Cytherian Empire. We have been watching your world for many cycles, observing your progress, your struggles, your wars." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the wind on the rooftop. "Your species shows promise, but also demonstrates concerning violent tendencies. You fight amongst yourselves over resources, territory, ideology. Left unchecked, such behavior leads to self-destruction. We have seen it countless times across the galaxy." The voice paused, and Sarah could hear the collective holding of breath from the crowd gathered around her. "We offer you protection. Join the Galactic Empire peacefully, and we will ensure your survival. We will end your wars, manage your resources efficiently, and guide your development along proper paths. You will never again face the threat of extinction through your own violence." Sarah's blood ran cold. Protection. The word sounded so gentle, so caring. But there was something underneath it, something that made her think of a spider offering to protect flies. "You have 7 of your days to consider our offer. Refuse, and we will be forced to take more direct measures to ensure galactic peace and security." The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. Over the next week, The world transformed? Governments held emergency sessions. Military leaders met behind closed doors. Scientists worked around the clock trying to understand what they were dealing with. But for ordinary people, life became a strange mixture of terror and wonder. Sarah worked with teams from every major nation, analyzing what little data they could gather about the ship above. It was like trying to study a mountain with a magnifying glass. The vessel was at least 200 kilometers long and 50 kilometers wide. Its energy output was beyond measurement with Earth's instruments. "They could destroy us easily," reported General Harrison during one of the daily briefings. "Our most powerful weapons wouldn't even scratch something that size." "But they haven't attacked," pointed out Dr. Petrov from the Russian Academy of Sciences. "That suggests they really do want us alive." Sarah had her doubts. She had spent her career studying life, and she knew that predators often preferred their prey alive and healthy, right up until the moment they decided to feed. On the 5th day, strange things began happening. Military satellites went dark one by one. Nuclear weapons in silos around the world simply stopped responding to commands. Advanced fighter jets fell from the sky, their engines mysteriously failing. It was surgical, precise, and bloodless, but the message was clear. Earth's defenses were being systematically dismantled. "They're not waiting for our answer," Sarah said during an emergency session of world leaders. "They're already taking control?" President Williams of the United States looked haggard. "What choice do we have? We can't fight something like this." Sarah wanted to argue, but the evidence was overwhelming. Humanity was completely outmatched. The Cytherian ship hadn't fired a single weapon, hadn't made a single threat. Yet Earth's entire military infrastructure was crumbling like a house of cards. On the 7th day, the Cytherians made contact again. "People of Earth," came the same cold voice, "your leaders have wisely chosen to accept our protection. Beginning immediately, all military activities will cease. All weapons of mass destruction will be deactivated. Regional conflicts will end." And they did. Overnight, wars that had raged for decades simply stopped. Soldiers laid down their weapons and walked away from battlefields. Nuclear reactors shut down safely but firmly. It was peaceful, orderly, and absolutely terrifying. Sarah watched from her apartment as Cytherian shuttles descended to major cities around the world. The aliens themselves were humanoid but wrong in subtle ways. Too tall, too thin, with skin that seemed slightly translucent and eyes that reflected light like a cat's. They wore simple gray uniforms and carried no visible weapons, but they didn't need any. Everyone who saw them felt the same instinctive fear that a mouse feels when it spots a snake. The Cytherians were efficient administrators. Within months, they had reorganized human society with mathematical precision. Governments were dissolved and replaced with regional administration centers. Currency became obsolete, replaced with a resource allocation system that the aliens claimed was perfectly fair and scientific, and it worked. Poverty ended overnight. Hunger became a thing of the past. Disease was conquered by Cytherian medical technology that seemed like magic to human scientists. Crime rates plummeted as the aliens' monitoring systems could detect and prevent illegal activity before it happened. Sarah found herself assigned to a research facility in what used to be called Geneva. She was given unlimited resources to study xenobiology, along with access to data about thousands of species across the galaxy. It was a scientist's dream come true, and it made her sick to her stomach. "You seem troubled," said her assigned Cytherian supervisor, who called himself Administrator Vex. They were standing in Sarah's new laboratory, which was equipped with technology beyond Earth's wildest dreams. "I should be grateful," Sarah said carefully. "You've given us everything we could want. But you are not grateful." Sarah met his alien gaze, seeing her reflection in those cold, cat-like eyes. "My species values freedom." "Freedom is an illusion," Vex replied. "Your species created the concept to justify chaos and inefficiency. Under our protection, you are free from want, free from fear, free from the burden of making destructive choices." "Free from choice entirely, you mean?" "Precisely. Choice leads to conflict. Conflict leads to suffering. We have eliminated suffering. Sarah wanted to argue, but what could she say? Humans were living longer, healthier, more comfortable lives than ever before. Children were receiving perfect educations. Artists were given unlimited time and resources to create. Scientists like herself had access to wonders beyond imagination. It was paradise. And it was a prison. Months passed, then years. Earth settled into its new routine under Cytherian rule. Humans adapted, as humans always did. The younger generation, born under alien protection, didn't even remember what freedom felt like. They were content, productive, and perfectly controlled, but Sarah noticed things that troubled her. Humans were becoming different. Not physically, but mentally. They were losing their edge, their creativity, their willingness to take risks. The fire that had driven humanity to reach for the stars was being slowly, systematically extinguished. She also noticed that some people were disappearing. Not many, and always quietly. When she asked about them, she was told they had been relocated to better serve the Empire's needs. When she pressed for details, Administrator Vex would simply change the subject. One night, while working late in her laboratory, Sarah discovered something that changed everything. She had been studying genetic samples from various human populations, trying to understand how different ethnicities might adapt to alien medical treatments. But what she found in the data made her blood freeze. The Cytherians weren't just protecting humanity. They were studying them. Every medical treatment, every genetic scan, every biological sample was being analyzed and cataloged with scientific precision. Humanity wasn't being protected. They were being prepared. Sarah spent weeks verifying her findings, checking and rechecking her data. The pattern was undeniable. The Cytherians were conducting a massive biological survey, mapping human genetics, psychology, and physiology with the thoroughness of scientists preparing for an experiment. But an experiment for what? The answer came to her in the early hours of a cold Tuesday morning, as she sat staring at genetic probability charts on her computer screen. The Cytherians weren't planning to keep humans as protected subjects forever. They were studying them to find the most efficient way to replace them, the missing people. The ones who had been relocated weren't being moved to new jobs. They were